Hello everyone. Uh, in our last lecture, we saw that we have seen need for characterization of cell lines, and in this lecture, we are going to elaborate characterization point in detail. First of all, there is first need that we have saw that we need to uh, identify, confirm which species, that means from the cell line belongs to which species, right? So that thing we need to confirm. So for that purpose, the species identification is very much important. So how exactly we do identify species? First of all, chromosomal analysis is the best and basic technique to identify from which species that cells belongs. Exactly. So chromosomal analysis means karyotyping. It is the one of the best method for distinguishing this between the species. Why? Because each species has its own specific chromosome number, right? Like few plant species are there which we generally use to for farming, and these plant cells are having a like so, one of the finite sets of chromosomes are there, right? Like we have 23 pairs of chromosome, the other organism might be having a 42 pairs of chromosome, again the other organism having a very less pair like 2 pairs of chromosome. Or even though few organisms are having, they just don't belongs a diploid state, or like the diploid state, the pairwise chromosome is not present in some organisms, they just contains the haploid state of the chromosome. Okay, so that kind of thing is also available. So karyotyping is very much important. Using these combination of specific molecular probes to hybridize to individual chromosome and karyotyping, and that gives us a best result to understand and analyze a species level identification. So now you might be you are having a question why we need to identify species, right? Because once we formulate the primary cell culture from the tissue sample or any organism, then almost we know from which species we have taken that material, right? But imagine you have received some cellular mass from biopsy or autopsy, and in a forensic laboratory or in somewhere you don't recognize, or you need to culture it but you don't know the species of that topic. So for that purpose we need to identify species based on that cell, right? So without any PCR identification, without any blotting technique, you simply you do karyotyping and you can identify, you can compare that result with already prepared karyotyping data or already developed chromosome blotting photographs. Okay, so I and other technique is specific molecular probes, right? These molecular probes might be they are protein, might be they are single stranded DNA material, or might be they are some sort of other type of material which is acting as a probe, and they labeled a specific sites on the chromosome. And with such a sites, with labeled site, if we see that these the site, suppose this is the chromosome, right? This is the chromosome, this telomere, centromere, you all know the detail. Suppose some probes attached over here which shows fluorescent colored probe, right here. Some probes attached over here which shows a different color, some shows here, right? So what happened, there is a particular pattern, and with respect to that pattern we identify which species or which chromosome or what type of chromosome is it, and ultimately with the help of that particular pattern we identify species. So this is the species level identification. If you see the details of karyotyping, we are going to see that in detail, right? Don't worry about it. Then different types of markers are there. We saw that just molecular probes are there. Likewise, different markers, tissue markers are also there. Now remember guys, I just told you that this is the primordial stem cell, suppose, and these primordial stem cells is deriving in the two gene line, okay, or two different cells, one is circular. So for our understanding I'm drawing this, and ultimately what, once they differentiate into other cellular type, once they differentiate, they show different protein entity or protein, uh, the exterior way or the protein, right? And with the help of that protein markers, or with the help of these exterior surface molecular proteins, peripheral proteins like we can say, we can manufacture tissue markers, or we can manufacture a cellular marker, so that we comes to know from which lineage that cell belong. Okay, so this is what the basic is. So each cell types can be traced back via a series of proliferating cell stages. Each cell, because in every differentiation cell expresses specific type of cellular growth factors, or like we can say that some sort of platelet derived growth factor, PDGF, is it? These are some sort of growth factors which is been delivered, or which is been formed from the specific cell types, and continuously in lineages the cell develops such a kinds of factors, and they express it on the peripheral surface of cell. So this is what we know, how exactly locate and delineate that cell or the cell line in a specific lineage. Different types of tissue markers are there. One type of tissue marker is cell surface antigens, right? The second one is intermediate filament protein. Third one is differentiated products and functions. The fourth one are enzymes are there. The fifth one is regulations, and sixth one is lineage fidelity. So these are specific tissue markers, and with the help of these tissue markers we can identify a lineage, and we can identify what type of cells are they. Okay, we'll go in the details one by one. The enzymatic marker, we'll see first of all which one is very interested right now. If you see, enzymatic markers, if you see, there is an enzyme called glutamyl synthetase. What it does, it is the repressor or inducer. This enzyme basically helps in cellular metabolism. Okay, okay, now if you see in which cell line this enzyme produce in a high amount, the cell lines are, we call it as astroglia, or the astrocyte cells, which is present in neural cell line or neural development, okay, in brain. And the best inducer for that enzyme is hydrocortisone. You must have heard that hydrocortisone or nicotinic acid or these cortisomal factors, these are enhancers of our neural capabilities. For your kind of information, I must tell you that few drugs are there, like we say that LSD and different drugs are there. These drugs especially produce hydrocortisone in our brain, who induces such a kinds of, or who initiates a particular neural signals, and so we get the high amount of availability of neurons in working. So these are the few inducers, hydrocortisone, and the one of the repressor is glutamine. Okay, sorry, the glutamine. So see, if suppose this is the enzyme. Now what is a marker? If suppose I use hydrocortisone as a marker protein, or the hydrocortisone, if I suppose I make some sort of antibody right now which particularly join this hydrocortisone molecule, and if I choose to isolate the blood sample or whatever it is, and so of course these inducer and repressor molecules, they are present in the blood sample, and once I isolate the protein and I make some sort of hybridization experiment or blotting experiment, western blotting especially for protein, and if I check it based on immunohistochemistry technique, right, last time we saw that, I'll find out that there is somehow this enzyme is produced, and this enzyme shows the activity in that organism or in that cell line. So these different types of enzymes are there and their markers are present. Okay, angiotensin converting factor, then angiotensin converting enzyme is very helpful in the cell signaling pathway, guys. This is very important. Then the tyrosinase or the dopamine decarboxylase, dopa decarboxylase, we call it as creatine kinase, then creatine kinase BB. So these are different growth factors and enzymatic markers are there. Then we'll see that the karyotyping. What is mean by karyotyping? The chromosome content or karyotyping is one of the most characteristic and best defined criteria for identifying cell lines and relating them to the species and sex from which they were derived. That is basic definition of karyotyping. If you see the complete the what do we call uh, procedure, then we saw that if we have cells in the flask, right, these are cells in the flask. Now we don't know what is its nature and from which species these cells belong. So first of all we need to add colchicine, or that the name comes up is colcimid, right? Some companies produce colchicine in the name of colcimid or vinblastine. So these molecules or these chemicals helps cells to arrest in the metaphase, or during the mitosis it helps into address them in the log phase. Okay, so once, okay, last time I guess we have started with the karyotyping procedure. We have elaborated this is the flask, and we know that how to establish a primary cell culture. Now there are many more applications of karyotyping, and we saw such applications, and we were understanding the procedures of karyotyping. Now if you see that we need to add colchicine, right, we need to add colchicine or colcimide or vinblastine to arrest the cells in the log phase. Okay, and so we need to add this colchicine colcimide up to 4 to 6 hours so that the cells will be arrested in the metaphase at the mitosis stage, and so we can get the proper structure of chromosomes like this. Okay, so after trypsinization, after addition of these colchicines, we go ahead with the trypsinization. You all know that trypsin is an enzyme, it is a protease enzyme who basically helps in disintegrating these cells into single cells, and we can form the suspension cultures out of these adherent cell culture. So after the trypsinization, or just shake off the flask which contains these metaphased cells, because of trypsin treatment they are loosely attached to substratum. So once we shake it little bit, you can get the full suspension culture, is it, because of the resuspended cells in the hypotonic citrate solution, guys, hypotonic citrate solution. Now here, which is very important, why we are using hypotonic solution, because you all know that cells is actually maintaining its osmotic balance. This is the cells, and if we provide some hypotonic solution around it, the cell swells up, right? Cell swell, is it? And then what happen, once it absorb ample amount of water outside, from the outside, it swells up, so that we can get a proper nucleus out of it. So after that, we need to fix the suspension with a cold acetic acid or methanol suspension. Generally 9:1 ratio or 8:2 ratio, such as ratio is maintained with acetic acid and methanol to fuse or to fix these cells. Basically, after that, we centrifuge these cells. We centrifuge it, we resuspend it at the bottom, we place it on the cold system or ice tub. Basically, we resuspend it in the fixative. Remember that we have extracted all the trypsinized material, trypsinized suspension, whatever remaining it is, and we have added these acetic acid methanol fixative within it. Then we generally extract these culture in a very ice cold condition. We extract it with the help of Pasteur pipette. This is the pipette, and we drop, or we drop wise we put such a drop on the slide, a grease free slide. Remember, grease free slide at the one side of the slide, okay, one of the side. And then we need to drop it around about 3 meters away from the slide, because once you drop that, say drop of the suspension, what happened, the cell burst open up, cell will burst when it bombard or when it collide to the surface of slide. And then immediately what happens, spreading, cell spreads up. Once the spreading is done, okay, and it is satisfactory, if you see that this spreading is done, immediately we dried it up on the 60 degree centigrade, some sort of hot plate, is it, so that the culture or the whatever drop is completely dried up. Then we stain it with the help of Giemsa. It is the Giemsa stain, particularly it stains to chromosomal body, right, or the DNA. So once we stain with the Giemsa, we give a certain wash with the tap water, or even though certain buffer also we use, and then we see this light under the compound microscope under the 100x oil immersion objective lens. So this is the procedure. So once you get such a kinds of spread, you will be succeeded, or you we could imagine that you can be succeeded in this whole procedure. It's a tedious procedure, and the procedure needs expertise, like the handling and performing every functions. We need expertise. Currently there are many manufacturing different kits are there, who are right now available and provided by different companies for karyotyping, is it? So this is the basically the procedure, right? Addition of metaphase block, and then how we use vinblastine or colchicine to arrange them in the metaphase. Then the collection of mitosis, some cells, example like CHO, Chinese hamster ovary, or HeLa cell line, it detaches readily when the metaphase, if the flask is shaken off. So sometimes for certain cell lines we don't need to add trypsin, right? But for some cells which is completely packed and very intact, we need trypsinization, okay. And to eliminate trypsinization, we use following steps, like add colicimate, remove the colicimate carefully, and replace it with the hypotonic citrate solution, a KCl, right? Shake the flask to dislodge the cells in metaphase either before or after incubation in hypotonic medium, and then fix the cells in, like in the fixative. These are several procedure. Hypotonic treatment is very much important, as I said, because 0.075 molar KCl we generally use, or HBSS, okay. This is the buffer diluted with 50% of distilled water, okay. And with the help of this given protocol, we follow this hypotonic treatment. Then spreading, as I have said, that you need to hold the slide, and with the help of pipette you can drop, or we should drop it on the slide, right? So this is all about the karyotyping procedure. Then the next part comes here with the chromosome analysis. What is chromosome analysis? Chromosome analysis is very important because unless and until you find the exact pair or the exact figure of picture of chromosome, you can't say that organism is not like uh, having a certain disorder or having an impairment in their genes. So counting of chromosome is important. So with respective to the standard photographs or standard length of the chromosome, we can compare our slide with the reference slide or reference photographs. We arrange it, but the spread should be in between 50 to 100 so that you can get the proper result. Okay. uh, the closed circuit television or the camera lucida attachment may help because it takes accurate photographs and clear cut photographs here. And like after that we can count the chromosome number. After counting, there are like analysis. Within that analysis, diploid uncountable numbers are there or polyploid uncountable numbers are there. Such kinds of counting, we can plot it in terms of graph, is it? And this graph is called it as histogram. So like how many chromosome numbers are there, and the frequency of these chromosomes which is comes up in our slide. So with respect to that, we count these chromosome number and we analyze it. Karyotyping is very important. Like how do we exactly take a photograph, or once we spread it, this is the spread completely, right? So what happened, we take that all picture once we take a photograph from the microscope, we cut it and we arrange it likewise, is it? We arrange it typically, we flip flop or we rotate the pictures and then we arrange it, and we arrange it in the centromere fashion, like we in the linear way. In the centromere is here, centromere is here. Then we compare the p and q fragment, or the segment, q segment and p segment of that chromosome with the actual number, and then we see how many pairs of chromosomes are there, whether they are accurate or not. Right here in this picture you can see that 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 and 23. This is a sex chromosome, obviously. And this is what the human chromosome spread is there, and according to that we see that whether any elongated segment is not, or is there any triploidy condition is that or not. So we just use it with the help of karyotyping, and we understand whether that organism is having some sort of abnormalities or not. The next thing in the characterization is biochemical and genetic characterization of cell lines. This is very important topic. In the genetic characterization, karyotyping one of the procedure, right, that we just saw. But the next one is DNA content. Because of DNA can be measured by propidium iodide fluorescent with the CCD camera by flow cytometry, right? This is the technique we use, or some sort of like nano drop method is also useful to count the DNA content. The analysis of DNA content is particularly useful in the characterization of transformed cell lines or transformed cells that are often go with the aneuploidy or heteroploidy condition. Aneuploidy and heteroploidy conditions are the chromosome numbers which is formed in the diploid, triploid state or a single state like haploid state. So we count the DNA content, and with respective to DNA content, we understand whether that organism is having normal DNA content. If it is much more than that of the normal, then we can say that they are in the abnormal state. The second thing is, with the help of DNA hybridization, we can count. Like, what is hybridization basically? Hybridization means if you know the DNA language, right? If you know the sequence of DNA, a known sequence of DNA, we just put that or we arrange that on some sort of mesh like nitrocellulose memory. You all know that such membranes are already there. and we put our DNA, that is denatured DNA, on, and we saw that, or we see that is that DNA is particularly matching with the our probe or not. These are probes, DNA probes. And so with respect to that, we understand that whether our sample is as it is the samples like a probe or not. That is called hybridization, and the same complementary sequence only attaches to our DNA probe. So hybridization of basic molecular probes to the unique DNA sequences, and that procedure is called it as Southern blotting, and that provide information about a specific region, amplified region of DNA, or the even though altered base sequences, such as like the characteristics of the cell. Several characteristics of cell lines are there, like some cells provide some protein, a specifically extracellular protein which has a particular DNA sequence. So we use molecular probes to identify whether cell line is the cell line which we are looking for or not. So that time we can use Southern blotting. Then strain specific gene amplification, such as like amplification of dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So that enzyme is very important in some sort of synthesis of in the metabolism, and it may be detected by cell lines selected for resistance of methotrexate. These cell lines who basically resistant to methotrexate antibiotics, they specifically produce the dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, and then we see with the help of this hybridization methodology. Like several MDR gene, multi-drug resistant genes in vinblastine resistances, like multi-drug resistance bacteria is right now coming up in the like in medical condition. It is a worst medical condition right now we are facing, because we peoples are daily facing very heavy antibiotic exposure, and because of this heavy intake of various antibiotics, we develop resistance against it. We don't develop resistance, but the bacteria, the pathogens which is which have infected, we are infected by such a pathogen, and if this pathogen facing continuously single antibiotic for a long period of time, of course they develop some sort of resistance against these antibiotics. And if in future the same bacteria infects me, and if I use the same antibiotic which I have used in past, then that antibiotic would not be able to kill that organism. So that means the resistance is developed in that bacteria, and in that term such a kinds of bacteria is coming up right now in the focus, like TB, tuberculosis, multi-drug resistant MDR TB, MDR E. coli, MDR yeast. Such a bacteria is right now coming up in the medical condition, and it is really worst condition because they shows resistance to bunch of antibiotics which we routinely use against them. So that is the big question. So that's why we need to look forward for to search for new antibiotics, new drugs who can kill and overcome with this infection. Then the overexpression of specific oncogenes, such like cancerous cells, to identify whether that cells or whether that organisms are cancerous or not. That so specific oncogenes, if we get the primer, basically we can amplify that oncogene, right? We can amplify that oncogene in multiple numbers, and we can go ahead with this hybridization methodology and identify our cell lines or our cells are cancerous or not. So these are few techniques, like then restriction digestion of the extract of whole DNA, and the limited by the amount of DNA required, and it is more common to use the polymerase chain reaction with a primer specific to the sequence of interest and enabling detection of relatively small number of cells. Like restriction digestion is another methodology, like RFLP. Few molecular markers are there, we can amplify them, and if we get the proper amplification of such genes after PCR, then we can say that this cell line is the same cell lines that we are looking for, or the cell shows that characteristic because they contain that molecule or DNA molecule. So probes is very important for in terms of the hybridization, and the other technique is PCR, of course, uh, in the in situ hybridization technique. Is it? Next technique in the characterization is DNA fingerprinting. Now, what is meant by DNA fingerprinting? DNA fingerprinting is a very powerful tool in determining the origin of cell lines. Like I guess you remember that term cell lineage, and that cell lineage gives us the origin of cells, or from which cells basically that cell are coming up with, is it? Now, the DNA fingerprinting, basically, DNA contains regions known as satellite DNA, right? These DNAs, they are common, and somehow they have developed multiple copies in the DNA segment or in the chromosomes, and the repetitive form of DNA segments, we call them as satellite DNA. Microsatellites are there, and that apparently they don't transcribe themselves, so they didn't show any property to form the protein. So they don't involve in central dogma process. These regions are highly repetitive and their length vary, with like mini satellite DNA having 1 to 30 kilobase pairs repeats, and microsatellite DNA having the functions of these regions are not fully understood yet, right guys? So this is the opportunity for our research, for your research also, to find it out the exact. Many more scientists are currently focused on microsatellites. What are their function, why they are present, are they junk DNA, or they are not useful, but they need to be extracted from the chromosome, but the chromosome don't develop such a machinery to extract this DNA and still they remains as it is. It could be anything. The reasons could be, or the functions of these microsatellites could be anything. Still we don't understand fully. I am telling fully, not at all. We have understood their functions but not fully. They may be purely structural or may provide the reservoir of potential codable regions for genetic recombinations in further evolution. Might be, God knows. But these regions are very important, guys. So this is the part of research, but these microsatellites is very important, and microsatellites gives us the idea about cell line, because the origin from where the cells, as the same microsatellite DNA, they transfer from generation to generation. And so once we do it, the fingerprinting analysis, like several probes we use, like sense restriction, fragment length, polymorphisms, these RFLP, and we do hybridization again. So like DNA fingerprinting is basically the hybridization technique, right? The protein coded with the and the DNA with our probe, satellite probe, and so we see that once we get that probe and identify the cell lines which has been provided. When analyzed by polyacrylamide electrophoresis, each individual's DNA gives a specific hybridization pattern as revealed by radioactive and autoradiography with the probes. This is again very important. There is a autoradiography is the technique. I guess you don't know that. I'll just explain autoradiography. What is meant by autoradiography, and it is the very best emerging technique right now we are looking. Suppose this is the gel, right? And gel is contains some sort of dye. Already I have prepared gel with the dye. Once that dye comes in contact with some sort of probe, elementary probe, suppose that P, phosphate, if that comes in contact with the P, it eliminate, or it, once we expose it to the UV radiation, the gel, it eliminates. Now just imagine my probes is labeled with the P, okay, and once I hybridized it, once I just run it, I just run these different mixture of probes on the polyacrylamide gel, right, page, and once I run this page, the whatever DNA bands are formed, there are several of bands, right, but few bands after exposure to UV radiation, few bands eliminate, or sorry, illuminate, sorry, not eliminate, eliminate. After elimination, what happened, the focus or the compound, the band shows light, is our hybridized material, and that comes like the cell contains that DNA. and so this is particularly called as the autoradiography or radioactive material. So these are different technique that we are talking about, and this is how this autoradiography or radio labeling dye is. We can watch it. These are few examples because there are different cells, and we hybridized it with the specific probe, RFLP probe, and we analyze which cells produces high number of such DNA. Is it? So that's how we examine it. Then this next one is the DNA profile. DNA profile, guys, DNA profiling is very much important now currently, because there is a vast amount of organisms, we are facing different variety of genes, because evolution is tremendous. Like if you say the single order of any animal kingdom, that contains around few hundreds to thousands of species, and each species has its own DNA profile, its own genetic content. So how exactly differ from one another, and that is countable, that we need to report, and the whole study we do it with the help of DNA profiling. I'm talking about some classification and systematics, but if you see that few diseases, few pathogens also has some sort of DNA content which is special for that particular species. Like I just told you that the MDR pathogen, multi-drug resistant pathogen. Suppose take example E. coli, Escherichia coli, and that multi-drug resistance bacteria shows a slight variations apart from normal E. coli cells. Now that's the big thing. That's why we need to clarify with the help of DNA profiling. We need to submit their sequences. What is the difference? What is the similarities? And because of these microsatellites, such variations we can quantify. Such variations we can quantify, because I'll just read what I have written. Because microsatellite sequences are quite small, and it has been possible to identify and quantify a short tandem repeat sequences at a specific loci, short tandem STR at a specific loci. So second generation multiplex SGM, this is the a sort of sequencing machinery, microsatellite sequencing, examines 7 different areas of genome, and SGM plus examines 11. This is the applied biosystems gives us such a machineries, that is called it as SGM, second generation multiplex system. The DNA profiling is available as the service from the number of laboratories including LGC to ATCC. LGC means these are the laboratories who document several microorganisms. They serve several cultural documentation, or different cultural storage facilities are also available over here. Next, cross contamination between cell lines is the long standing and frequent cause of specific misrepresentations. Okay, cross contamination of these cell lines. So how could we identify whether there is a cross contamination based on this DNA profile only? It has been estimated that 36% of cell lines are of a different origin than that they claimed, right? So based on these short tandem repeats, we can identify whether that cell line is the same as they said from the origin lineage, is it is the same or not, right? Whatever cells after few generations, so or not. So this is one of the technique. DNA profiling is what DNA profiling is again useful in DNA barcoding, or to barcode the different species. That is another topic, but you should remember, you should aware of this term. That's why I'm telling you. What is the exactly process of profiling? DNA is extracted from cell pellets, right, with the help of several kits. Many kits are there. I have written some examples of kits. Guys, I'm directly telling you that what kind of kit we generally use in the process, what research laboratory use. So make sure you you pay a good attention towards my lecture. The QIAMP, that is the mini kit that we use to extract the whole DNA. The extracted DNA is amplified with the AGM plus and then run on acrylamide gel with some sort of DNA sequencer machinery applied by system ABI 377 sequencer before being analyzed with the GenSack or genotyper software, and then we profile it, okay, after sequencing of this microsatellite DNA. Next procedure is that next procedure is RNA protein expression. So this is now here we comes up with the proteomics branch. Up till now we saw that the gene and gene based identification or characterization, DNA based identification. Now we are looking towards some proteins. Cells of a particular characteristic phenotype can be recognized by analysis of gene expression by with the use of Northern blotting. These are few references how exactly or these are the research they firstly investigated and discovered these techniques, and they used applications as a Northern blotting for expression pattern. There are different methodologies like radioactive, fluorescent or luminescent probes. These probes they generally use for expression. This procedure can be carried out with the help of cellular level as in the fish, and by in situ hybridization with the radioactive probes. So there is like the same DNA probe chip like the protein chips also present, but it's a microchip, guys. It is a microchip. Thousands of different cells are present. Cells means different cavities are present on the chip, and it is just like 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, and that chip contains around 1,000 wells. So we inoculate our protein samples, and these each probe, each wells is attached, or it is contains a different probes of proteins. So we need to identify what protein expression is there to that particular cell lines. If the pattern of cells expression, once it eliminates, it shows some sort of pattern, and if the pattern eliminates and it as it is by our natural cell line expression, then we understand what is the characteristic, what is that cell, and how the protein expression or protein expression patterns are changing from generation to generation, or after few, like in the drug testing, after few drug insertion in this primary or cell culture, some cells changes its protein expression, and that we study with the help of these protein profiling, okay, Northern blotting technique. So various methodologies right now in the market, and we need to study them in details before we go into a research laboratory. The process of these Northern blotting is qualitative analysis of total protein contents reveals the differences between cells when whole cell or cell membrane extracts are run on two-dimensional gel electrophoresis, the referred by O'Farrell 1975. This technique produces a characteristic fingerprint similar to polypeptide map of protein hydrolysates, but contain so much information that interpretation can be difficult. So for that purpose, 2D gel electrophoresis interpretation photographic methodologies are present, and with the help of such a standard data and standard outcraft of this picturization will give us a little bit idea what could be the expression. It is possible to scan these gels and by computerized densitometry, and that subject is called molecular dynamics, which attributes quantitative values to each spots and can normalize each fingerprint to the set standards and interpret positional differences in the spot, and that gives us the idea about cell to cell variation, or in the expression variations, expression of proteins. Labeling Labeling of cells with the 32 phosphate or 35S methionine, or the combination of 14 C 14 carbon, right, 14 carbon labeled amino acids, followed by autoradiography may make analysis easier. So that shows us some sort of radioactivity or some sort of overexpression of these radiation radiating spot, and immediately our analyzer can spot the differences, okay. but it is not the technique suitable for routine use unless the technology for preparing two-dimensional gels is currently used in the laboratory. So that is the one way of drawback here. Next technique in cell characterization is enzyme activity. The enzyme activity is very important because the cell produces a lot amount of extracellular and intracellular enzymes, right? But few cells develop different types of or variations in the amount of enzymes which has been produced by cells, and that we can study with the help of enzyme expression pattern or activity of that cells, and then ultimately we can identify whether there is a changes or not. Guys, I'm just not talking about identification of cell line. I'm talking even about cytotoxicity techniques also. Because what happens in cytotoxic testing, once we get the cell line, after few examination or after few laboratory testing of different vaccines or different drugs, antiviral agents, the cells show some sort of changes, right? The side effect, that's what we called it as side effects. And what kind of effect or what kind of changes is occur in the cell after the examination or after the trials of several drugs. We quantify enzyme pattern also, we can quantify protein, we can quantify DNA basis, and after each and every testing we can say that there are no side effects. But this is one of the technique, enzyme activity. The specialized function in vivo are often expressed in the activity of specific enzyme, some of which may be expressed in vitro also. Unfortunately, many enzyme activity are lost in vitro. Remember guys, when we culture them in the laboratory, they lost their enzyme activity, or somehow they lost their enzyme preparations also, or enzyme um, enzyme synthesis also, because of environmental impact or coordination with nervous system or lacking of several receptor molecules from the other organ, other tissue. That could be happen, and that's why might be they lost their function. So for that purpose, like take example, liver parenchyma cells loses arginase activity within the few days of culture. When looking for specific marker enzyme, the constitutive level or and the induced level should be measured and compared with the number of control cell lines. The example is like glutamyl synthetases. This we can quantify and we can check the expression of normal cells and the cultured, examined, or uh, the experimental cell line. The activity, for instance, the characteristic of astroglia in the brain, these are the cell lines, right? Astroglial cells, you almost know that. The astroglia in the brain is increased several fold when the cells are cultured in the presence of glutamate instead of glutamine, right? And so because of one amino acid is changing, the several folds means if we the experiment has been done in 1958 and 1986, it has been reviewed by Maclean. What I want to say, the overexposure to a particular amino acid changes its characteristics of single cells, astroglial cells. Okay, and so that's why we can understand how we exactly lose our memory, how we gain our memory, how we can enhance our memory. Several food right now available in the market, like badam and cashew nuts and these different different food material, they contains a specific type of amino acids which enhances our neural capability, but after a long period of exposure only that could be happen. So like again, we can examine these cell lines, we can expose these food or minerals or amino acid particularly which has been provided by this food material, and we can say that okay, that product is good for our neural enhancement. Like that is the part of just an overall our general knowledge, but you should remember whatever we are facing, whatever products we are using our day to day or in routine life, that is somehow connected to our cell characterization in the laboratory. Then the isoenzymes are there. Now isoenzymes, like I know that you know isoenzymes, the enzymes activities could be compared qualitatively between cell strain using the enzyme protein polymorphism. among the species and sometimes among the races also. And the enzymes which shows same activity, okay, same morphism like polymorphism, and that enzymes we called it as isoenzymes or isozymes. They may be differ in the structural pattern, but their functions are same. So with the help of chromatographically or electrophoretically and the distribution pattern of these enzymes, we can identify with the help of zymogram pattern, or we can identify with the help of proteomics some techniques. So this is the procedure. Next technique is antigenic markers. Antigenic markers means what? Now take example, our whole immune system is based on antigen antibody interaction. Now you know that how exactly our immune system works. First of all, when the foreign body comes up in our body, some cells go and face that antibody antigen molecule or the foreign molecule face to face. They understand what type of antigens or what type of epitopes are present on the cells. So for that purpose, some cells has to sacrifice themselves, and that cells is obviously dendritic cells are there. And then ultimately after recognition, they pass on that message to other type of cells like B cells or T killer cells or some other cells like, and then ultimately they produces some sort of effector molecule or enhancer molecules for particular signaling system. And that makes a very good sense in understanding this antigenic effect, the antigenic effect of immune system. So antigenic markers are there. We can identify different types of antigenic markers, and with the help of such markers we can identify what is going on in the body, whether there is infection or not, if that infection is self enhanced or the foreign because of foreign molecule or not. So that all the study we do with the help of antigenic marker characterization. Immunostaining is there. Antibody localization is determined by fluorescent assorted cell sorter method, FC, these fluorometry, wherein the antibody is conjugated to fluorochrome such as fluorescein or rhodamine, and by the deposition of precipitated product from the activity of horseradish peroxidase dye or alkaline phosphatase, which is conjugated to the antibody. So which shows a particular color, right? Don't panic, don't be like, if I'm reading a very heavy words, horseradish peroxidase and alkaline phosphatase and then fluorescent, don't be panic, these are names of dye. Immunological staining may be direct or indirect. The direct means that is the specific antibodies itself conjugated to the fluorochrome or the enzyme and used to stain the specimen directly, okay. An indirect method is used in which the primary antibody is used in its native form to bind to the material, right? This is what it is the material. I sorry, there is a term we call material. So this is what the antibody antigenic marker system for cell characterization. So guys, this is what the cell characterization is in the animal tissue culture. I hope so you understood each and every technique. I'll provide several notes also along with this lecture. You just refer to that. Thank you very much.